We're all told the same thing over and over again. Find your passion. It's treated like this golden rule for a happy, fulfilling life. But what if that simple advice is actually hiding a really dangerous trap? In this explainer, we're going to deconstruct passion and show you how to handle it with care.
Right? It's so inspirational, it's motivating, and it feels undeniably true. Just be passionate, and everything else will magically fall into place. But here's the thing. That piece of advice, it's only half the story.
And this, right here, is the central conflict. On one hand, passion is an absolute blessing. It feels mastery, it brings you joy, it leads to incredible success. But on the other hand, it can be a curse, leading straight to burnout, anxiety, and, as we'll see, some seriously unethical behavior. The truth is, passion isn't simple. It's a paradox. And if you trace the word back, you find a really surprising clue. The word passion actually comes from the Latin word passio, which means suffering. Yeah, suffering. For almost 1,000 years, it was used to describe the unremitting torture of Jesus Christ. That's a pretty stark contrast to how we think of it today, but it's a crucial clue. It tells us that, deep down, passion and suffering are still very much connected.
So, to really understand this paradox, we need to break passion down. It's not just one single thing. It actually has two very, very different faces. Psychologists call them obsessive passion and harmonious passion. And knowing the difference between these two, well, that's the key to making sure your passion works for you, not against you.
So let's start with the destructive side, obsessive passion. This is what happens when your self-worth gets all tangled up with external rewards. Things like promotions, getting famous, or even just social media likes. It stops being about loving the activity itself, and it becomes all about what that activity gets you. It turns into this uncontrolled urge, and you basically become a slave to the outcome.
And this, as you can imagine, leads to some pretty serious problems. With obsessive passion, your self-worth is incredibly fragile because it depends on things you just can't control. This fuels a deep, deep fear of failure, which drives burnout and, in some really extreme cases, completely unethical behavior. Just think of Jeffrey Skilling at Enron or Elizabeth Holmes at Theranos. Their obsessive passion for results at any cost, it led to historic levels of fraud.
But okay, there is a much healthier alternative. It's called harmonious passion. This is when you engage in something because you freely choose to, and the joy comes from the activity itself. It's an end in itself, not just a means to an end. This kind of passion fits in with the other parts of your life instead of completely taking over.
What really defines harmonious passion is that it's driven from within. You're focused on the process, not just the final score. The reward is the simple joy of doing the thing you love. It feels aligned with your core values, and it leads to a sense of fulfillment and success that you can actually sustain for your whole life.
Okay, so that's the theory. But how do you actually find and cultivate this healthy, harmonious passion in your own life? Well, it all starts by challenging a really common and really flawed belief about how passion even works.
The problem starts with our mindset. Research shows that a staggering 78% of us, that's most of us, approach passion with what's called a fit mindset. We believe that we just need to find that one perfect activity, that one perfect job that fits us like a soulmate. But this fit mindset is a total trap. It makes you give up the second you hit a challenge because you think, oh, well, I guess this isn't my thing. The much, much better approach is a growth mindset. Instead of looking for a perfect fit, you start with something that's just interesting. You see challenges as part of the process, and you understand that passion isn't something you find, it's something you grow over time. So here's the single most practical first step you can take. Just lower the bar. Seriously, forget about finding the perfect passion that gives you some immediate lightning bolt feeling. Just start by giving yourself permission to explore your interests with an open mind. That's it. That's the real first step.
And how do you turn a simple interest into a real passion? Well, according to psychologists, lasting motivation comes from satisfying three basic human needs. First, you need to feel competency. That's just a sense of making progress. Then, you need autonomy, the feeling that you're acting in line with your true self. And finally, you need relatedness, a connection to something bigger than yourself. When an activity starts to meet these three needs, a real, lasting passion can finally take hold.
All right, so let's say you found an interest, and it's growing into a beautiful, harmonious passion. The very next challenge is one that trips up almost everyone, this myth of the balanced life. I love this question because it just gets right to the heart of it. I mean, think about it. When you're truly, deeply engaged in something, training for a marathon, writing a book, even falling in love, are you ever really balanced? The answer is almost always a hard no. Passion is disruptive, it consumes you, and that's actually part of what makes it so powerful. So if balance is an illusion, what should we be striving for instead? The answer is self-awareness. The goal isn't to perfectly portion out your time and energy like you're slicing up a pie. It's to be conscious of the trade-offs you're making, to honestly look at what your passion might be costing you, and to make deliberate choices about how you live your life. And this brings us to the final, and I think most practical part of this whole explainer. How do you actually develop that harmonious passion and that self-awareness? It all comes down to adopting what's called the mastery mindset. You can think of it as a toolkit for building a healthy and sustainable relationship with your passion. This whole framework gives you 6 principles to follow. First, your drive has to come from within. Second, you have to focus on the process, not just the final outcome. Third, and I love this one, don't worry about being the best, worry about being the best at getting better. Fourth, see failure as crucial information for long-term growth. Fifth, you have to be patient, mastery takes time. And finally, when you're doing your thing, be fully present. Be here now. By putting these principles into practice, you completely transform passion. It stops being this overwhelming, uncontrollable force that can either build you up or completely break you down. Instead, it becomes a practice, something you can cultivate, direct, and sustain for a lifetime. You gain control over your passion so that it never, ever controls you.
At the end of the day, it helps to think of your passion as a fire. When it's managed properly, it's an incredible source of warmth and light and energy. But if you leave it unchecked, that exact same fire can burn you out and destroy everything around you. So the choice of whether your passion is a gift or a curse, well, that's ultimately up to you. So I'll just leave you with this. Is your fire warming you, or is it burning you out?